Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayam Namaskritya.
Narayam Namaskritya.
Naram Cheva Narottanam.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Devim Saraswati Vyasam.
Devim Saraswati Vyasam.
Tato Yam Udrayet.
Tato Jayam Udiyayet.
Nashtapresat Abhresu.
Nashtaprayesu Abhreshu.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Bhagavati Uttama Sloke.
Bhagavati Uttama Sloke.
Bhaktir Bhavati Neshtaki.
Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki.
I just need a bit of IT help. Also, my apologies, I didn't the start of the Bhagavatam class. Technically, this is a hybrid class between Chaitanya Charitamrita and Bhagavatam, so it's borderline. Pradeep, can you put Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela, chapter 12, verse 1 on the screen? Chaitanya Charitamrita, and then Madhya, M-A-D-H-Y-A.
Okay,
12.1.
and there's someone's beating me. They've already done it.
It's on there, is it? Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah. Yeah. Good. Just keep it there for a minute. Yeah. Sri Gundicha Mandiram Atma Vrindai.
Sri Gundicha Mandiram Atma Vrindai.
Samarajyam Kalastana Saguraya.
Samarajyam Kalastana Saguraya.
Swachita Vachitlam Ujavalam Cha.
Swachita Vachitlam Ujavalam Cha.
Krishna Pavasu Pujitam Chakra.
Krishna Pavasu Mayakam Chakra.
Sri Gundicha Mandiram Atma Vrindaya.
Sri Gundicha Mandiram Atma Vrindaya.
Samaryam Kasalanta Saguraha.
Samarjayam Kasalanta Saguraha.
Swachita Vachitalam Ujavalam Cha.
Swachita Vachitalam Ujavalam Cha.
Krishna Pavesu Krikam Chakra.
Krishna Pavesu Krikam Chakra. Sri Gundicha Mandiram Atma Vrindaya. Sri Gundicha Mandiram Atma Vrindaya. Samarjayan Shashlananta Cha Gaura. Samarjayan Shashlananta Gaura. Swachitta Vacha Sitalam Ujjavalam Cha. Swachitta Vacha Sitalam Ujjavalam Cha. Krishna Paveshayapayakam Chakara. Krishna Paveshayapayakam Chakara. Sri Gundicha Mandiram Atma Vrindai. Sri Gundicha Mandiram Atma Vrindai. Samarjayan Shalanataha Sagoraha. Samarjayan Shalanataha Gauraha. Swachita Vachitalam Ujvalam Cha. Swachita Vachitalam Ujvalam Cha. Krishna Pavesopayakam Chakara. Krishna Paveshayapayakam Chakara.
Shri Gundicha Mandiram Atma Vrindai.
Shri Gundicha Mandiram Atma Vrindai.
Samajayan Shalanta Sagaurai.
Samarjayan Shalanta Sagaurai.
Swachita Vachitalam Ujvalam Cha.
Swachita Vachitalam Ujvalam Cha.
Krishna Pavesopayakam Chakara.
Krishna Pavesopayakam Chakara. Krishna Vaisakara Sri Gundicha Mandiram Atma Vrindaye Samajayan Saranam Gaura Swachitta Vachitalam Ujjalam Cha Krishna Vaisakara Sri Gundicha Mandiram Atma Vrindaye Samajayan Saranam Gaura Swachitta Vachitalam Ujjalam Cha Krishna Vaisakam Chakara
Sri Gundicha,
Sri Gundicha
known as Gundicha, Mandiram, the temple, Atma Vrinde, with his associates, Samarjayam, washing, Kasalantaha, by cleansing, Sa, that, Gaura, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Swachitvat, like his own heart, Sitalam, cool and calm, Ujjavalam, bright and clean, Cha, and Krishna, of Lord Krishna, Upavesa, for the sitting, Opiyakam, befitting, chakra, made. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu washed and cleansed the Gundicha temple with his devotees and associates. In this way, he made it as cool, as bright as his own heart. And thus he made the temple a befitting place for Lord Sri Krishna to sit. So, appropriate verse for Radhastami. Om Jnana Timranasya Jnanam Jnanasalaka Samritam Yena Tasmai Sri Guru Namaha Sri Chaitanya Wisdom
Vayarupa Kalamayam Dadantistab Kalantikam Yeham Shri Guru Shri Guru Vaisnavan Sat Shri Guru Savadatam Satnam Shri Guru
Shri Radha Krishna
Hey Krishna Krishna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Govisha Radha Kanta Namaste Shri Gaurangi Radha Vrindavaneshwari Vishwani Sudevi Pranami Priya Vashtra Kripa Sindhu Vacha
Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Prabhu
Nityananda
Shri Advaita Shri Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
So this is a really profound, really difficult topic, a really profound topic. So we'll go very slowly. I have tried to give you the best of two different classes on Radhastami. One was from Srila Prabhupada in 1971 in London, and the other one by Radhastami, who I think gave it 5 years ago in Mumbai. So I'll try and summarize key points from those classes, and then we can try and understand this most extraordinary pastime of Lord Chaitanya. But if you don't understand the importance of Lord Srimati Radharani, you can never really understand Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, and you definitely won't understand this pastime, which is, in some ways, my favorite pastime in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Okay, so one of the great names of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Rama. We know Lord Rama. And Rama is is meant as the reservoir of all pleasure, the ultimate supreme enjoyer. The concept of pleasure itself is derived from the Lord Krishna. It's a manifestation of Rama. Yeah. Now the Lord is complete in himself. He does not require anything else. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnasa Purnam Gacchate Purnasa Purnamadaya Purnamidam Vivajishite. Right? Everything that emanates from the Lord is a perfect whole. He's completely self-satisfied. Yet, because there is a tendency in him to enjoy and have fun and have pleasure, he manifests that pleasure potency in its purest form as Srimati Radharani. Okay? So he is, in many ways, the energetic and the enjoyer. She is the manifestation of that enjoyment. And she is the purest embodiment of devotional service. So there is nothing in her heart but Krishna. Not a tinge of anything else. 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We know everything in the spiritual world has no time, but the analogy is that she never stops thinking about the Lord. Okay? So as fire and heat cannot be separated, just as Krishna and Radha cannot be separated. They are effectively one. Okay? Our Supreme Lord is the supreme highest truth. You know, he's the supreme personality of Godhead. He is effectively the ultimate source of all the spiritual and material worlds. Yet, he's engaged in fun. At the same time, he's maintaining all the spiritual and material worlds. At the same time, his highest devotional fun is from Radharani. So we know that in Brihad Bhagavata, Narada Muni is wandering around, trying to find the greatest devotee in the planetary systems. You know, goes from Brahma to Shiva to Prahlada and so on. And eventually, he's told, the conclusion of the Brihad Bhagavata is, the gopis are cursing their own eyelids because when they close their eyelids for a fraction of a second, they cannot see Krishna. Such is their devotion. And that is the highest embodiment of love. Okay? There is nothing else but Krishna. So for us, that is the aim. Little by little by little, we remove all the material conceptions in our heads. Krishna makes it very clear to Arjuna, in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, verses 8 and 9, that mental concoctions are temporary, and mental anxiety is temporary, a forgetfulness of Krishna is temporary, just as the material manifestations are effectively temporary, that nothing is permanent. And we have to get away from those mental concoctions in our mind in order to establish ourselves in the deeper and deeper surrender as we go in our own journey of bhakti. What we're aiming for is the highest standard. The highest standard is by the gopis, and the highest of all the gopis is Srimati Radharani. Okay? Now, surrender is a difficult concept in religion. The idea of surrendering itself is difficult because we have, by our nature, so many attachments because of our conditioning. Ever since we were little, our parents told us to go and get degrees and go to school and get mortgages and get debt and finance the industrial Kali Yuga capitalist economies of the world. You know. But we have to free ourselves from this conditioning and surrender. And so you get a lot of religious practices where people are sitting in the middle of cold fields, meditating on an idea of God, trying to surrender. Okay? That's very, very difficult. To surrender on pure austerity alone is extremely hard. I would just go out there and have a cold bath and austerity. I would think of God. I'm not the body, I'm not the body, I'm not the body. Okay? I'll get up in the morning, I'll chant for 4 hours. I'll just chant the beats. I don't care what anything, I'll just chant. Very difficult to get surrender. And that is where the role of Radharani in both the spiritual and the material world comes in. Because the difference between just a mere austerity, having a cold bath, sleeping in a field, going living in the Himalayas, and bhakti is pleasure, spiritual pleasure. Krishna's leading potency. Right? Well, turn something into a mere egotistical austerity of the mind, which is good for purification, but into something higher, is the existence of Radharani. Radharani is the embodiment of the Lord's own sense of fun and enjoyment. Right? And once you have that extra ingredient in the dal, you don't have a bland dal which is just lentils anymore. You have something a lot more interesting. Right? That is what allows you to go into the mood of surrender and finally give up all the material concoctions in your mind. Right? They say people chant and chant and chant, but they don't get the taste for the holy name. It's very, very difficult to really progress to deep bhakti. You always have to use the mind and the Vedic bhakti process, the ritual process, to free yourself from material attachment. I must get up, I must do the rounds, I must go to Mangalarti, I must do this, I must do that, I must go to the temple. That's very good, it's very important, part of your purification process. But what you're trying to do is get away from, ooh, I've got to do that, that's what I do, to this is the most fun thing that ever happens to me every single day. Right? Because then you're getting the tinge of the pleasure from the spiritual world. Okay? That's what we're trying to do. The whole purpose of the Vedic path, remember, in nectar devotion, is to reach the spontaneous path of love. And the only source of that love is Srimati Radharani. So that's why it's embodied in our daily prayers that we ask her to give us a droplets of that pleasure potency so we can feel that pleasure potency. So we move beyond the ego and conceptions of the mind and bhakti, and should I do this, should I do that, to thinking about the pleasure. And the equation of pleasure is in many ways very simple. Srila Prabhupada says in the penultimate paragraph of the Bhagavad Gita, worth repeating every single day, we have to move from a pleasure taker to a pleasure giver for the Lord. When we do that, we'll be on the path of getting that pleasure potency, that taste, that rasa that we're looking for, that turns our Vedic bhakti into love. That's what we're trying to do. Radharani is the source of that. Without that, manifestation of pleasure potency is not possible. You'd just be stuck. You could be a priest for 1,000,000 lives, you'd still be stuck in the rituals of the priesthood. You wouldn't get the love of God. Right? That's why Radhastami once gave a talk at Berkeley, and he said, it doesn't really, in some ways it doesn't matter what religion. It doesn't matter what religion, because what matters, what the Lord really wants to see is the love of God. That's the open road to surrender. The taste of the love of God. Then you can realize that the difference between sense pleasure and even bhakti activities in sense pleasure are not the same as those that actually give pleasure to the soul and the heart. Okay? The pleasure of the soul is very, very different to the pleasure of the body and the senses. The pleasure of the soul only comes from the deep potency, which is where Radharani is the core manifestation. Okay? So in many ways, this is the most important day of the calendar, because this is the day when you get the meaning of the nectar to go back to Godhead. Right? In Canto 3, Chapter 15 of the Bhagavatam, they talk about, there's a whole description of the spiritual world given. People aim, well, that's fantastic. Spiritual world, everyone is young, everyone has no material sexual desire, everyone's only desire is to please Krishna. That's the only way you can get into the spiritual world. But most importantly, above all, the love, the manufacturing of the love of Radharani is there, and that is love without envy. There is no envy in or ego, which is the precursor of envy in the spiritual world. Prabhupada makes clear, if you want to go back in that commentaries to chapter 15, 3rd canto, that you have to have no envy in your heart. And the way to get rid of envy is actually not, you can't remove it, you have to replace it with the pleasure potency, with the rasa of bhakti. That is the only way to remove that. As you surrender to want everything from Krishna, and you understand that Radharani is manifested to get us all back to Krishna, otherwise the potency does not exist, the pleasure potency does not exist. Then we are interested in getting other people to have have those rasas. Our interest is aligned with the Lord's interest, and the Lord's interest in creating the material world is so that every single living entity goes back home, back to Godhead. So your journey is as important as the person next to you. And when your love for Krishna is such that the person next to you's journey becomes almost more important than your own journey, then you've hit the most important visa requirement to enter into the spiritual world. Because then you don't have envy. That's why collaboration, encouragement, and love, forgiveness, not fault-finding, helping people rather than harshly criticizing are such fundamental features. Because they change the nature of our desires. And the problem that happens in the spiritual world is, because there are these desire trees which you think of something and they give you something, for Krishna. Krishna wants bananas with yogurt, bang, for example. Desire tree gives you the banana with yogurt. If your mind is polluted, you're going to ask for some stuff that isn't appropriate. And secondly, you're going to ask for things which might be for you and not for Krishna, which means that your visa is cancelled and you end up back here for some more training. Okay? So what we have to be very wary of is we have been encouraged to have material demands by this consumer society. And that is taking us away from what we should be doing, which is contesting those desires in our head and replacing them with bhakti. Okay? That starts with a process, but also starts with an awareness of what our conditioning is. Okay? When we want to enjoy for ourselves, we have an illegitimate desire. That could be, I want a better pair of glasses, or I want a better, I want some unnecessary other thing, luxury socks, I used to have a luxury socks fetish, spent millions of pounds on luxury socks, I'm sure, over the years. But no, that could have been for Krishna's pleasure. So we must be very, very wary of the tendencies that we have from our previous births. Okay. So Radharani and Krishna are, in the transcendental world, there is not an exhaustion. There's no senses. So the senses and the neurology of the brain can only take so much pleasure. Okay? Unfortunately, our brains, if you tell any drug addict that ends up sort of getting very ill with heroin abuse, they've tried to take more and more pleasure out of the drug, but the body's not designed to take more than, let's say, X plus 5 amount of pleasure. Right? We are limited. We can't actually, in the end, watch 500 hours of Netflix. It's not possible. Our brains will not be able to take that much pleasure. Right? But in the spiritual world, pleasure is deeper and deeper and deeper. So you could watch the same Tom and Jerry cartoon again and again and again and again and again. It'll get deeper and deeper and deeper and more fun. Right? Every time the mouse jumps and the cat falls in the water, it'll be more and more laughter and more and more laughter. There'll be no boredom, right? Because it's transcendental. Right? So, how we respond to Bhagavatam lessons and stories from the Bhagavatam and from the Chaitanya Charitamrita is part of our eligibility into the spiritual world. Because in the spiritual world, they're only going to be talking about Krishna. Right? If we get bored very quickly hearing about Krishna, then we're going to be very bad company for everyone else in the spiritual world. And we're certainly be very bad company helping the gopis help Srimati Radharani. Right? Yeah. That's why, sometimes in sadhana it's always worth, like the little Krishna cartoons, it's always worth watching them again and again and seeing, can I watch one back to back 4 or 5 times? And Brahma gets confused by Krishna making the cowherd boys appear in the village again when he puts them in the clouds. How many times can I watch that again and again? Because if I want to go back to the spiritual world, I might end up with a group of friends that go, let's go and watch that story 575 times. We don't need to sleep, of course, in the spiritual world. There's no physical body. Okay? So, are we ready to go back? Are we ready to watch these cartoons 12, 14 hours a day? Now, I'm told that Sivarama Swami is watching little Krishna cartoons 6, 7 hours a day now, or something, And he spends one day on the weekend watching them. He gets that pleasure of, oh, Krishna's done this, oh, let's watch it again, Krishna's done this. So, for the elevated soul, it's painful to be separated from the transcendental pastime of the Lord, for it's none different from the Lord. Okay? So let's have a think about this. We saw the movie on Nrsimha Avatar movie, Avatar Nrsimha movie. And the Vedas are the breath of the Lord personified. Okay? The breath of the Lord. And there's no different from the Lord. The Lord's breath and the Lord are no different in transcendental pleasure potency. Okay? And the breath of the Lord goes into Brahma's nose, and out comes Vaharadev. So Vaharadev is known as the manifestation of the Vedas. And the Srimad Bhagavatam is the essence of the manifestation of the Vedas. Okay? And Chaitanya Charitamrita is almost the Bhagavatam in action. The Bhagavatam ends and begins. What do you do in bhakti in action? So really, there's no transcendental, in a transcendental sense, there's no difference between the breath of the Lord, Chaitanya Charitamrita and Bhagavatam. They're the same thing. And therefore, one whose soul is in tune to Radharani's pleasure potency can get the pleasure, can get the rasas reading these scriptures. Okay? They won't want to stop reading the scriptures because they're getting that pleasure from the spiritual world. It's like suddenly our cold, dark hearts, full of ice, covered in frozen ice, a sort of shot of sun ray came straight from the sun and burst into the cold ice around our hearts and started melting it and went straight in. And we can feel that warmth. All that cold ice is the material enjoyment we're getting. And suddenly we're getting a burst of something else from another world. You know? So that's what we have to try and work for. Yep. Okay. So the final point is, of course, there are thousands and thousands of goddesses of fortune serving the Lord. Okay? And they're giving things to the Lord constantly. They are making things for the Lord constantly. But the mellow between Radharani and Krishna is different. It's one of total absorption. Unlike the goddesses of fortune, which constantly massage the feet of the Lord, or bring him a softer mattress, or clean his flute, or do some other service, which is all transcendentally pleasurable. Here there is just an absorption. When they meet each other in Goloka and Vrindavan, they look at each other, and they would have met 5 minutes ago, but it's like the first time they've ever met. You know, like in a Bollywood movie, the first time the boy and the girl meet, and then the music comes on. It's like that constantly is happening, 50 times a day. You know? Oh, I never saw you before. Wow, you're so beautiful. Wow, God, you're incredible. You know? And it goes on and on and on. And unlike with us, her love is transcendental. Her envy of other gopis is transcendental. Because she wants to get closer to Krishna. Like, ooh, he's doing better than me in the temple. No, it's like, oh, he's closer to Krishna. Let me ask him how I can get closer to Krishna. You know? The mentality is very different. There's no material conditioning in that mentality. Okay? There's something else we've been very for. Okay, so now we can move on to the exciting part. Okay, so where do we see? Where do we learn about the love of Radharani? Okay, so once Lord Shri Krishna said, I can't take this anymore. This lady is obsessed with me 24 hours a day, 500 million minutes a year. How can she be so absorbed? And she's never unhappy. Even when I disappear, she longs for me with such a longing that her heart almost seems to break. I don't get to experience this. It's really unfair. It's my pleasure potency. My pleasure potency. I don't get to experience it. The greatest love in all spiritual material worlds, and she gets it and I don't. Of course, she's manifested out of it. So he decides. The mercy of all the fallen souls in Kali Yuga. He decides, I will come and I am going to taste that love. And by my tasting of that love, the conditioned souls will have a standard to aim for. They will directly see the transcendental love of Radharani in action. Yeah? Chaitanya Charitamrita means what? Very important. It means the characteristics of the soul in its pure natural form when all the material coverings are removed. That's literally what it means. What is the natural state? If I took your soul out of your body like some sort of Jamaican black preacher, took it out, black magic preacher, and your soul in the purest form with all no material conditioning, that pure form of love that's hidden at the moment is Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, Satchitananda. Right? So, if you're curious about the question that ever came to you, what happens when I actually purify myself completely? There you have the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Now, let's see how Radharani, in her mood as Lord Chaitanya, approaches the cleansing of a temple. Lord Chaitanya goes into the temple. In the mood of Radharani, Krishna has appeared. Krishna is in this temple. Oh my God, that is such a thing. My Lord is in this temple. And in a minute you'll see that such an obsession occurs with this temple that even if there's a little dust of rice on the floor, a little husk, that can't be right for my Krishna. Oh no, no, let me remove that straight away. I will clean it again and again and again and again. My Krishna, Krishna must be seated in the most clean environment, the most beautiful environment. Every flower must be there. You see the spirit of Radharani. That's why Lord Chaitanya, the Lord himself, Krishna, is doing this. So we get the idea, the mentality of how we should approach the material things we use in Krishna's service, including this body, of course. It's no different to a spoon used in Krishna's service. Okay? So I will read the translation again, and then I'm going to jump ahead and read out verse 76 to about 85, which is the cleansing of the temple. But when you're reading Lord Chaitanya cleansing the temple, you're reading Krishna enjoying, or Radharani would enjoy serving Krishna cleaning the temple. Okay? So this is Radharani really that we're looking at here. Okay? So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu washed and cleansed the Gadincha temple with his devotees and associates. In this way he made it as cool and as bright as his own heart. Radharani. And thus he made the temple a befitting place for Lord Krishna to sit. This is beyond reverence, this is love. With reverence you can clean the temple. Oh, this is your Lord, you're amazing. But with love, yeah. If you get a cleaner to come in the house and clean the baby's cot, it'll be nice and clean. But if the mother cleans the baby's cot, it's a different thing. Yeah? It's a different thing, it's love. That's what we're trying to get here, love. Okay? So I'll just read that this is out. This is important. Because ultimately we want to go back to the spiritual world and serve the Lord in the pure form. Then we have to understand what Lord Chaitanya is doing. So, text 74. Upon hearing the Lord's request for permission to wash the Gadincha temple, the Praditya, the superintendent of the temple, said, "My dear sir, we are all your servants. Whatever you desire is our duty to perform." The king gave a special order for me to do without delay whatever your lordship orders. My dear Lord, washing the temple is not a service befitting you. Nonetheless, if you wish to do so, it is to be accepted in one of your pastimes. Now, Lord Chaitanya, someone told him, Krishna is in the temple. He's a deity in the temple. Wow, where? Let's go clean it. So excited. To wash the temple, you need so many water pots and brooms. Therefore order me. I can immediately bring all these to you. As soon as the superintendent understood the desire of the Lord, he immediately delivered 100 new water pots and 100 brooms for sweeping the temple. Okay, this is not as exciting as we are back cleaning this temple, but bear with me. Okay? The next day, early in the morning, the Lord took his personal associates with him, and with his own hand smeared sandalwood pulp on their bodies. He then gave each devotee a broom with his own hand, and taking all of them personally with him, the Lord went to Gadincha. Krishna is here. He needs to be clean. It's very exciting. In this way, the Lord and his associates went to cleanse the Gadincha temple. At first, they cleansed the temple with the brooms. The Lord cleansed everything inside the temple very nicely, including the ceiling. He then took up the sitting place, Simhasana, cleansed it again and again, put it in its original place. And he's in ecstasy here, absolute transcendental ecstasy. This is the most exciting thing. Now imagine in the spiritual world, Radharani is told Krishna is coming to this hut. In about half an hour he's going to arrive. Right? Imagine what she would do. She would like, even if it was 2 million times clean, she'd clean everything again. You check every is this soft? Is this soft enough for him? Oh, yeah. Is this right? Is that in the right place? What if he looks over there and that pot is the top is on the floor? He won't feel it's not organised. Okay? The detail out of love. Okay? The Lord cleansed everything inside the temple very nicely, including the ceiling. He then took up the sitting place, cleansed it again and put it in its original place. Thus the Lord and his companions cleansed and swept all the temple's building, big and small, and finally cleansed the area between the temple and the kids of the hall. Indeed, hundreds of devotees were engaged in cleansing all around the temple, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was personally carrying out the operation just to instruct others. The Lord himself, to empower the pious, he comes. Paritanayam sadhanam rasa dishtanam. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu washed and cleansed the temple in great jubilation. Oh no, I've got to do some service. Oh no, I've got to go and cleanse the plate. Oh no, no. No, it says great jubilation. It doesn't say begrudgingly, oh my God, I've got to go and do something in the temple. Oh God, no, why? You know, it was better with the material world in the past. Chanting the holy name of Krishna at all times. Now this is interesting. Doing service in the temple, chanting the holy names at all times. The Lord himself is doing this. Krishna's doing this, you know, for us. You know, really we should do it too. Right, that's the point. Similarly, all the devotees were also chanting at the same time performing their respective duties. Oh, no, it says they were fighting amongst themselves. No, it doesn't say that. No, miss all that. The entire beautiful body of the Lord was covered with dust and dirt. In this way, it became transcendently beautiful. At times, when cleansing the temple, the Lord shed tears. At some places, he even cleansed with those tears. Krishna's own tears in the mood of Radharani cleaned the temple where he himself is sitting. Only Krishna can do such a thing and have the mellow of the pastime of doing that. But all pleasure comes out of him as manifested as Radharani. After this, the place where the deity's food was kept, Bhoga Mandira, was cleansed. Then the yard was cleansed, and all the residential quarters, one after another. After Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu collected all the straw, dust and grains of sand in one place, he gathered it all in his cloth and threw it outside. Following the example of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the devotees in great jubilation began to gather straws and dust with their own cloths and throw them outside the temple. The Lord then told the devotees, I can tell how much you have laboured and how well you have cleansed the temple, simply by seeing all the straw and dust you have collected outside. Even though all the devotees collected dirt in one pile, the dirt collected by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was greater because of pure transcendental love. That's Radharani. Yeah. After the inside of the temple was cleansed, the Lord again allotted areas for devotees to cleanse. Then the Lord ordered everyone to cleanse the inside of the temple very perfectly by taking finer dust, straws and grains of sand and throwing them outside. After Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the Vaishnavas cleansed the temple for a second time, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very happy to see cleansing work. Okay, I will stop there. The point is twofold. Our approach to bhakti, approach to devotional service, approach to service, we have to get closer and closer to the Radharani standard, doing it for the love of God. And that will reciprocate the love in our hearts to enjoy our service. We're always begging so we enjoy the service. Yes, we want service, but we also want to serve in transcendental pleasure. And only the Lord can grant us that, depending on the mood of our service. Yeah? So we need to beg Radharani for having a pure pleasure-fancy mood. Everything is done for Krishna's pleasure. And the other aspect of this, of course, teaching of this is, of course, we have to work on cleansing our hearts very carefully. All our selfish, material, egotistical desires have to be removed. And that will come from replacing every material desire with the desire to please Krishna. Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Yeah.
So any questions, anything on that? I hope that was okay. Not too heavy. It's my favourite pastime. I get very excited about it.